the January 2018 production by the QP Voices of Readers Theater. Today is bittersweet for us. In our first act, we are presenting the premiere of the Potemkin Hotel by playwright Edith Stromey. Sadly, as we explain in your printed program, she did not live to see it performed, which she really had hoped to do. In the audience, though, are friends of hers who, over time, have encouraged and enjoyed Edith's writing and join us in dedicating this part of the day to her. We are, most fortunately, able to have the presence of the writer of our second presentation here today. That's Jonathan Dichter, who in his everyday life practices law and is a good enough sport to share some of the gaffes and foibles he knows about that take place in various courtrooms in America. He's functioning today as our technical director over there on the side of the room, but you can certainly seek him out after the play. Right at this moment, if you happen to have any device on you that makes a sound, would you please kindly take a moment to turn it off?
Okay, let's turn the sound.
Oh, we get to hear it first. Thank you very much. Tell us when.
Always does that when
Okay,
it's
it's
going
done. Okay. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to our production of The Potemkin Hotel by Edith Stromey. Let me introduce our characters. Flora Lee, an artistic and flamboyant woman. She wears layers of swirling negligee. Cicely, a music lover with a vague and dreamy demeanor. Linda, a ballet dancer who loves to pose and admire herself in the mirror. Sophie, a youngish woman, she dresses simply and is in Russia to find her birth mother. Nino, a tour guide who wears a sort of uniform jacket with a cap. Lexi, the hotel concierge. She wears a warm robe with curlers in her hair. Cleaning woman Natalia, who appears in the background with a mop and bucket, broom, and a feather duster. The runner, who wears running clothes with a race number hanging around his neck. Welcome to the Potempkin Hotel in St. Petersburg, Russia. In your mind's eye, I invite you to picture Petersburg, picture the rundown hotel lobby with a registration desk, an artificial palm, several assorted chairs, and a crooked mirror on one wall. It is the wee hours of the morning. The lobby is dark and empty now, except for the cleaning woman who is leaning on her mop and staring at the floor. That will all change in a very few moments when 6 strangers will meet and find that they may have more in common than they think. The characters enter one by one. Some are in night clothes and others still dressed for travel after a late arrival a few hours earlier. Most are wearing slippers or socks.
What just happened? I heard a scream.
Me too. Someone banged on my door and shouted for me to get out.
Same with me. What's going on? Our tour doesn't start for hours.
Didn't you hear a scream?
No, just pounding on my door. I was sound asleep.
At the sound of Sophie's voice, the cleaning woman lifts her head and then looks down again. Laura Lee enters with a flourish, dressed in a fancy negligee.
Why is everybody up? It's the middle of the night. I need my beauty sleep, you know. This is totally unacceptable.
I heard a scream and knocking.
Nino, the tour guide, enters looking frazzled. He has a tour guide jacket and a clipboard.
What is it? Are you all okay? Is everyone here? It looks like all 4 of you are here. The rest of the tour arrives in the morning. Was it one of you who screamed?
No, I understand.
Not me.
Lexi, the concierge, enters clutching a robe around her.
I'm so
I
sorry.
am so sorry. Something terrible has happened. Is your group all here? You were our only guests last night.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
All present and accounted for, as they say. It wasn't any of them who screamed. It certainly wasn't me. I was so tired I fell asleep in my clothes. I was so tired I think everyone was exhausted.
Well, all of you stay right here in the lobby. I'm going to check out the roof and the corridors, and I have already called the police.
Please, why would you do that? My goodness.
Bad news. We need to stay right here until Lexi and the police check things out. What is it that, where it is here is the murdered in the house.
Oh my God, I didn't think of that.
Lexi returns, shaking her head.
All secured. No locks have been broken as far as I can tell. Are you sure one of you didn't have a nightmare and scream in your sleep?
No.
Looking at one another in confusion, they wander slowly up the stairs back to their rooms. Some time has now passed, and all is quiet again. The police have come and gone, and the guests have returned to their rooms to try to sleep.
Oh, what's going on? What?
There are shouts and a sound of footsteps as the guests re-enter the lobby.
My room was ransacked. Someone was searching my room while we were down here.
Me too.
Yeah, somebody's been in my room too.
I'll call the police again. Meanwhile, you had better all stay here. Someone is definitely making mischief in this hotel. Nothing like this has ever happened here before.
I'll bet.
Mother enters and looks about in confusion.
I can't even find my race. Does anyone know where the marathon starts?
It's around here somewhere. Just find some runners and join in.
I can't do that. I have to start at the beginning.
Why? You're an American, right? Well, you can't win. The race has already started, I think. And anyway, a Russian will win. Go out there and find your race. We are busy here.
Do you have any water I can have?
No.
Here, have a sip of my tonic. That'll get you on your way.
The runner drinks gratefully from the flask she offers and leaves.
Look, we are all educated people here. We need to figure this out for ourselves before we end up at the police station answering questions for days and days. Let's start by getting better acquainted. We were too tired to talk on the bus last night. Now is a good time to introduce ourselves and tell why we have come on this Russian tour. As for me, I love to travel and see new places. I would say I'm here for personal enrichment.
I'm here because I love art and ballet. I'm a dancer. My boyfriend will join me in 2 weeks and we're going to try out for the Elfman Ballet Company. We have audition appointments. First, I want to visit the Hermitage and the Museum of Theater, Music, and Art and soak up all I can in case I'm never here again.
It's like that for me too. I just love the music. I can't afford to study here, but I can at least be here for a while. I studied Russian at my community college, but our instructor's accent was deplorable. I want to hear the real sound of the language.
Is that everyone? What about you? You are Sophie, aren't you?
Oh, I am not talented like all of you. I only recently learned that I am Russian and was adopted and raised in the United States. I want to see Russia for myself and maybe even track down my birth mother.
Well, it's nice to meet all of you, but I don't think we know anything more than we did before.
Well, the police want each of you to go to your rooms and determine what is missing. Now, go in pairs, just in case the thief is still about. The police think he or she is probably long gone by now.
The lobby is nearly deserted again. The cleaning lady continues to dust as Lexi places back and forth, waiting for the women to return from their searches. Finally, the women return, looking puzzled and talking among themselves.
Well, my room is a mess, but nothing is missing except a couple of trashy expose magazines I bought at the airport, nothing I would read or want to keep. And the Van Gogh replica I bought from a peddler while we're waiting for our luggage.
I'm only missing a red shawl I brought for a gift and my English-Russian translation book. Why would anyone want that?
My favorite necklace and the folder I had with all the paperwork about my mother are both gone. Fortunately, I can recover all the information online. Sadly, the necklace was very special to me. I only took it off because I felt so dirty and sweaty. I hid it in my underwear, but the thief found it.
They went through my jewelry too, but didn't take anything. I keep my inventory list with me so I can be sure of that. Fortunately, all my best pieces are in the hotel safe. At least I hope they are.
Yes, I checked the safe. It was not tampered with.
Well, that's good to hear, Nino. So what do we have then? Trashy magazines, a fake painting, an English-Russian translator, some research papers, and a necklace. Very strange. This wasn't a professional heist, was it?
The runner bursts into the room, huffing a bit.
I can't find that darn race anywhere.
Are you sure it's today?
Yes, right here on the back of my number, July 1st, 5 a.m. Say, do you have any more of that tonic? It really gave me a shot of energy.
Now, where were we?
Well, you were saying this wasn't a big professional heist. That's the problem. The police said not to bother them unless something valuable was taken or one of you turned out to be important. Are any of you important?
You mean to say if we were important, they would investigate? But if we were ordinary American tourists, they're not interested?
Yes, that's what they said.
Well, back to square one. We'll have to figure this out for ourselves.
But it makes no sense. Besides, it's not just what they have taken. Someone definitely screamed. Was that for real? Or was it just a distraction to get us out of our rooms?
Ah, I had not thought of that. A distraction? Oh, speaking of distractions,
The runner wanders back in and smiling at everyone, slumps into the chair.
Got any more of that tonic?
Oh, for heaven's sakes, here.
She hands him the flask. He raises it in a toast to her.
good grief.
This is
Lexi answers her
wonderful.
cell phone and talks inaudibly.
This is wonderful. Refreshing. Pepperminty tonic. What is in it?
Peppermint schnapps and vodka. Very fortifying.
Indeed.
Aren't you going to join your race?
Turns out that this is the 2nd of July. The race was yesterday. Darn international date. Line or something. I think I'll just stay right here for a while. This is so nice.
The police are coming back. It turns out there is something about that painting that was stolen.
Everyone looks at Glenda.
What? Why are y'all looking at me? Oh dear, are they going to arrest me?
Why would they arrest you? You had better tell us the whole story before they get here. Maybe we can help you.
Well, I didn't get the painting from a peddler. My boyfriend slipped it to me outside the airport. It's a fake, but we plan to switch it with the real one at the Hermitage and sell it for a fortune on the black market.
Well, that's a silly plan. There is so much security at the museum, you could never make the exchange. And who would buy a stolen painting anyway?
Oh, there are people out there who would want it. My boyfriend said so. It's a very good copy. We were going to have to work on the switch part though.
Not a good copy, just junk, very ugly.
Okay, come clean. What do you have to do with all this?
The cleaning lady shakes her head and slumps into a chair.
I did not mean to make such a mess. Taking the painting was a mistake. I threw it away in the garbage.
Well, apparently the police found it and want to talk to the owner. Glenda, you wait for them in my office.
Glenda leaves, head hanging down.
Now, Natalia, you tell us what you know, all of it.
Yes, I will tell all. My sister works at the Department of Tourist Affairs, and she saw Miss Sophie's visa request. Well, first, I must explain that years ago, I had a daughter, and the nurse told me she died, but I found out she didn't die. The nurse sold her to a baby market, and she was adopted by an American. That is all I ever found out. Then my sister saw Sophie's papers, and she had my baby's name and the same birth date. We thought it could not be a coincidence. If it was my Sophie, I had to know.
Well, I must say your English is improving by the minute.
Oh, yes. I work as a translator for an American company. I took this job when I found out where Sophie would be staying.
So did you take my necklace?
Yes, but only so I could show you this.
She dangles two necklaces, each half of a perfectly matched heart.
the hearts do match perfectly.
Then you are my mother? I have so many questions, but I am so happy to find you.
Wait a minute. What about the other stuff? The trashy magazine? The scarf?
Well, my sister can't resist American trashy magazines. She loves them. She was the one who screamed and searched the rooms while everyone was down here. She needed the scarf for a gift, she said. Sorry about that. She said she needed the translation book for her English class. My sister is a little light-fingered, as you Americans say.
Light-fingered? You mean a thief?
Oh, no, she will return the things. No harm, no foul, as you Americans say.
Oh, quit saying that.
I can't help it. I collect American sayings.
I love the way you talk. Would you consider giving me Russian lessons while I'm here? You could start a business tutoring.
Well, we'll see. Maybe if none of us get arrested, I'll do it.
Arrested? Oh, I forgot all about Glenda.
Linda enters smiling.
Oh, I'm okay. The police aren't gonna arrest anyone.
What? What happened?
Well, they found the painting in the trash and took it to be examined. They said it was so good they were going to replace the fake they have hanging in the Hermitage.
So, you are off the hook. Bygones, as they say.
I love a happy ending. Don't you?
Hello, and welcome back to the Quail Park Readers Theater production of Disorder in the Court, written for us by local attorney Jonathan Dichter. This collection of stories and moments is mostly all verifiably pretty much true-ish. The nice thing about the justice system in our country is that everything is recorded, so the insanity and humor is preserved for posterity.
Today, we will show you some of that insanity firsthand, divided into 5 different segments. First of all, we'll share with you just how dumb an intelligent lawyer can be in court. Then we'll remind you that without the sheer lack of brilliance of the witnesses in a courtroom, the lawyers would have nothing to play with. We'll then tell 3 brief stories. One about a Canadian bank robber, one about a British student, and one about an East Coast time traveler.
The truth is, you can actually Google almost anything we tell you and discover that at one point someone said it, did it, or believed it. So if you're ready, it's time for Disorder in the Court.
Lawyers are notorious wordsmiths. They use language as their weaponry in the courtroom, and their verbal barbs are sharp enough to puncture even the strongest opponent. Here are just a few examples of some of the amazing nuggets of pure wisdom that have come out of the mouths of lawyers nationwide. Each of these are single questions that have been asked by lawyers.
So, you were gone until the time you returned?
Your youngest son, the 20-year-old, how old is he?
That evening, were you alone or were you by yourself? You were present until the time you left, weren't you?
How long have you been a French Canadian.
When you were sworn this morning in the courtroom, were you present?
You've said you don't know what it was, and you have no idea what it looked like, but can you please describe it for us?
Sometimes the true wisdom of the lawyer doesn't actually set in until some interaction with their witness.
Were you acquainted with the deceased?
Yes, I was.
Was that before or after his death?
Doctor, do you recall the time that you examined Mr. Eddington's body?
It was in the evening, I believe around 8:30 p.m., when the autopsy was started.
And Mr. Eddington was dead at that time?
You say the stairs went down into the basement?
That's right.
Did they also go up?
Now then, Mr. Slattery, you went on a very elaborate honeymoon, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And did you take your wife?
And of course, a skilled professional witness can easily go toe-to-toe with a lawyer if need be.
Doctor, before you performed the autopsy, did you check for a pulse?
No,
Did you check for blood pressure?
no,
Did you check for breathing?
no.
So, then it is possible that the patient was alive when you began the autopsy.
No,
How can you be so sure, doctor?
because his brain was sitting on my desk in a jar.
But could the patient have still been alive nevertheless?
Well, without a brain, I suppose it is possible that he could have been alive and practicing law somewhere.
Witnesses can give as good as they get. They're often a source of significant wisdom and wit in the courtroom, as you'll see.
What is your brother-in-law's name?
Baroque Finn.
What's his first name?
I can't remember.
He's been your brother-in-law for years, and you can't remember his first name?
No, I tell you, I'm too excited. Nathan, for heaven's sake, tell him your first name.
Did you ever stay all night with this man in New York?
I refuse to answer that question.
Did you ever stay all night with this man in Chicago?
I refuse to answer that question.
Did you ever stay all night with this man in Miami?
No.
Are you married?
No, I'm divorced.
And what did your wife do before you divorced her?
A lot of things I didn't know about.
Did he pick the dog up by the ears?
No.
What was he doing with the dog's ears?
Picking him up in the air.
Where was the dog at this time?
Attached to his ears.
And lastly, sir, all your responses must be oral, okay? What school do you go to?
Oral.
How old are you?
Oral.
Lawyers and their clients can make amazingly studious and thoughtful arguments in the furtherance of justice and their cases, and often do. Take, for example, Robert Moseque, a Canadian citizen. Robert had robbed a bank in New York State. He was caught, arrested, and tried. The judge speaks.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, Your Honor. We, the jury, find the defendant, Robert Moseque, guilty of armed robbery.
The sentencing phase of this trial is where things got interesting for this case. Mr. Mosaque had an idea for a fairer way to sentence himself that he wanted to present to the judge through his lawyer. What's most amazing is that the lawyer actually presented the argument.
Based on your criminal history in Canada, the standard sentence for this crime in New York is 7 years in prison, Mr. Moyescu. Does the defense have anything to say before I impose sentence?
Yes, Your Honor, we recommend a sentence of 4 years.
4 years is not allowable based on the history here, Counselor.
Taking into account my client's Canadian criminal record, the way you are ruling seems unfair to my client.
Unfair, Counselor?
Yes, Your Honor. At the current exchange rate, Canadian things are only worth 62% of American things. So, as such, 7 years Canadian equates to 4 years here in New York.
An old adage in life is to be careful what you wish for. The same applies in the application of law. Even lawyers-to-be aren't exempt. We present to you the following cautionary tale of a young student at Cambridge in England. We begin by hearing his teacher's directions to the class.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have 3 hours to complete your examinations. Please keep your eyes on your work and you may begin.
Less than an hour had elapsed when a student raised his hand.
Ma'am,
Yes, Mr. Wilkins?
I have this document here that is a copy of the laws of Cambridge. Although over 100 years old, they are still fully in effect today. It reads, as I am pointing out here, that gentlemen who are sitting for an examination may request and require that he be presented with cakes and ale. I'd like my cakes and ale, please.
What?
After deliberation with other proctors as to what was appropriate for the situation, the young man was presented with a Coke and a hamburger, the modern-day equivalent of cakes and ale. But the story doesn't end there.
3 weeks later, I received a letter in the mail. It was a fine notification from Cambridge. I was being fined £5 sterling. Apparently, I hadn't worn a sword during the examination.
In 2003, in New York, Andrew Carlson was arrested for insider trading on the stock market. In a little more than 2 weeks, starting with an initial investment of $800, he managed to amass a fortune of a little less than $350 million. The Securities and Exchange Commission concluded that the only way he could have made those investments that well was if he had insider information. So he was arrested and questioned. His answers were unconventional. We begin with the SEC officers.
Andrew, we know you had insider information. Just tell us where you got it and it'll go much easier on you. Maybe we can even help you set up a deal.
All right, you got me. I'll explain, but you won't understand. It was too tempting to resist. I had planned to make this look natural, lose some here and there, not make it perfect.
And that's how it starts and it gets out of hand.
Yes, I got caught in the moment.
So where did you get the information, Andrew?
I'm from the future. Yes, 2256 to be precise.
Can you prove it somehow?
Sure I can. I'm happy to disclose historical information to you.
Andrew was dragged before a judge for proceedings for insider trading. The judge demanded the historical information Andrew had offered, but wanted something specifically.
Mr. Carlson, I will be happy to hear your defense if you disclose the precise location of your time machine.
Judge, I can't. It would hurt your timeline. The technology is just too powerful for you. Ask for something else. Want to know how to cure AIDS? How about where Osama bin Laden is? I'll give you those.
No, sir. I need to examine your time machine to believe you.
I refuse, Your Honor.
Then you will sit in contempt of this court in Sing Sing prison until you are willing to give me the information I require.
And so Andrew Carlson sits in a jail cell 200 years before he was born. However, before we leave these tales of disorder in the court, there's one important fact that you should know about Andrew Carlson.
What do you mean? That's not possible.
You see, after diligent research, the SEC had to admit that before 2002, they couldn't find actually any evidence of Andrew Carlson's actual existence.
And now we thank you, the members of the gallery, for your attentiveness to our presentation of
Disorder in the court.